Hey everyone. So I recently saw a video this week of a young male singer who was saying that he doesn't understand why people should use the word mixing for a male voice because he thinks like, oh, just female voices mix, but male voices, like let's let go of that, because there's no way to like mix chest and head in the male voice. And I really wanted to respond to him, but it seems like he deleted his video already. So here's my explanation. First off, I think the terms chest and head are problematic because if you think about it, the person that's trying to understand like mix, like they're thinking like, oh, head voices here and chest voices here, and like how do they like come together? And like just the concept is confusing, to use that type of vocabulary. But what I try to teach singers is that rather than thinking like chest, thinking that there's like an element of your chest in your voice, is to think of a musculature that is responsible for density and for power in your voice. And we're going to call that TA. And then on the other hand, whenever you're thinking about like a headier sound, a head voice sound, we're gonna call it like a thinner, flexible sound, and there's actually a muscle group that is responsible for that, and that is called CT. And the thing about whenever you're singing low, or if you're singing mid-range, or if you're singing really high, is that you're using both of those muscle groups at the same time, but with quantities and participation differing between each group. So I made a little board to try to help explain this. So on one end, you have TA, which is responsible for giving you a denser sound, which, usually people will say is a chest voice. Then on the other hand, you have CT, which is responsible for a flexible sound. That will give you, that thinner head quality, but we're trying to avoid chest and head for the moment. Now the thing is that whenever you look at your vocal range, the lower part of your range, you're going to have more participation of your TA muscle and less of your CT muscle. And then once you get into the middle part, you'll start to see that both of them are having like an equal or a close to equal participation between both. And then of course, when you get to the high part of your range, you have lots of the flexible muscle working and a little bit less of the denser muscle. Now, I put the chest, middle, and head to just kind of like, get some clarity as far as like what people are usually referring to when they use these words. But anatomically, these are the muscle groups that are actually in action when you're referring to your low, your mid, and your high notes. And if you develop the participation of both of these muscle groups, you actually can do like your vocal range, showing how dense the lower part is, how somewhat dense but also somewhat thin the middle part of your voices, and then how really thin the head voice is. So it's like going ah. And now if we look closely at the middle range, where you have all those middle notes and you have a really good participation of both muscle groups, the thing is that one note that you sing isn't always going to have the same participation of TA and CT. You actually can be flexible with your voice in this regard. So you could actually add more density to the same note, or you could add more flexibility to the same note. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you. Okay, so if I take the note F4, for example, that you can sing that note with less TA and a lot of CT. So like less dense, more flexible. So that would be like called like, your falsetto, right? Now the thing is that you could actually add more density and kind of like mix in more density depending on like the quality you're looking for. So here's that F4. So like the denser you get, the more shoutier it's going to become. So you kind of want to like look for like a good middle if they're asking for like a beltier sound. But if they're asking for a mixier sound, they're going to kind of ask for more of this type of a participation. So those two sounds there, one is that whenever they refer to a male mix, they're referring to like this, these two upwards. And whenever they're looking for belt, they're looking more for, the division of, this type of musculature. And the whole point is to be able to be flexible with your voice and to enjoy the flexibility of your voice and to find new and interesting sounds for different genres and different contexts. So there's really no one way of singing one note, for example. You have many different options depending on the genre and the style. And really, what matters is having a good voice teacher that can help guide you through that process and understand your own instrument. And considering that we're entering into the new year right now, if you're thinking about working on your voice next year, I do have some available slots with my method called the Brazilian belt. So if you're interested in that, just send me a DM and we'll get started.